Hi, gorgeous beings. It is I again. So we're leaping right into being able to collapse the timeline that your life was designed to go on. So in other words, your purpose, the reason that universe saw you to be valid and important in these times of great change, the reason why you were born so there was a whole timeline that you went on, and then what happened is life took you on a different path. That's why you're feeling the sense of urgency, because the sense of urgency, I want to draw this for you, is the difference between, well, we'll draw it right here. So if the entirety of consciousness thought you were a good idea, right? And the trajectory you were meant to go on fulfills on all of your skill sets, it fulfills on your purpose, it fulfills on your reason for being born, it fulfills on every past life, it fulfills on all of the contrast and the hardship you have the capacity to fulfill on all of the askings that you ever had in every lifetime. And you get to use the skill sets that you've developed in every lifetime in your pursuit of all of that. Isn't that cool? If you get to do that, then imagine that you were born into this lifetime as a bridge builder for the fulfillment of the beauty of so much of what you asked for in other lifetimes, especially in these times of great contrast and great change. What I know about people who are born now, that the embodiment of who you are is really super important, because when you embody who you are, you get to build the bridges for ending the duality that exists in this time-space reality right now and has for quite a while. Your life truly matters. The universe thought you were a good idea. So how do we collapse the two? How do we collapse the two? If this was the trajectory that you were born to go on, given all of your skills, all of your natural propensities, all of your history, then what happened? What happened is instead you went this way. And the reason you went that way is because you said, I can do anything, and your school, your parents said, no, you can't. You can't just receive from the universe. You have to go through a process. Well, and also you have to deserve it. And also, you're being a little bit not belonging, so you have to fit in. You can't think like a unicorn. You're going way off track. So you started to fit in, and you started to morph yourself to try to not rock too many boats, and no one gave you the manual. That's the problem. We got the same manual every other human being got, and for most of us, it didn't make sense. So much of it didn't make sense. What do you mean I can't just dream something and then take the steps, and that other people won't want to come along for that co-creative ride? What do you mean I'm limited as to how much I can accomplish based on what financial status I have? What do you mean I need to get financial support in a certain way in order to do anything I want to do, and then I have to have money in the first place? What do you mean I'm not tall enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not the right sex, I'm not da-da-da-da-da? What do you mean? What do you mean I'm not good enough girl? Right? And so what happens is you make all these decisions to try to be enough, to try to earn your way, to try to do the things that the linear institutions say that you need to do in order to get where you want to go. My dad's living proof that the paradigm of you need to do it the way the universe or the way human beings tell you doesn't work. My dad was constantly and is constantly looking for solutions that are outside of the box. So, the difference between these two paths, do you see? The difference between the trajectory that consciousness knew that you were designed to go on, and the ways that you've morphed yourself and splintered yourself in order to become acceptable to humanity, the difference between the two causes dissonance. And that dissonance results in the sense of urgency, because consciousness is always calling you back to this truth. So this separate timeline over here, this separate timeline exists in consciousness. Consciousness already knew all the potentials and possibilities. They might not know the specific ones, but it always knew that this trajectory was the fulfillment of you expressing every skill set and natural propensity and all your personality traits to their fullest. And when you shifted to change yourself in order to be acceptable or be enough or be whatever it is, you create a dissonance between the pathway that already got launched in multidimensional reality and consciousness knows that this path creates the greatest flow for you and the greatest flow for all of humanity. The difference between the two is the sense of urgency you feel inside that there's more for you. By the way, this is also your path of most abundance that has to do with that particular activation. So the sense of urgency is the difference between the two. Tell me, just type in yes if you, or give me some hearts if you know what I'm talking about, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, okay? So now, that sense of urgency, or like there's something more I can do with my life, or I feel like there's a higher expression, or I feel like I can be in more flow. Have you felt that? Have you felt that sense of urgency inside? Because if you have, what you're feeling, what you're open to, this is good news. It's not bad news. It's really good news. The good news is that this is actually, this actually exists and you're open to it. You're willing to consider that there's another timeline that exists in metaphysics that you could catch up to, that you could actually embody. See, most people don't even know that this exists. They're so caught in their everyday survival that they don't even know it's possible. So they'll actually never feel, right? And by the way, some people do feel resignation. Some people do feel the resignation that it's like, oh, well, I knew at some point that I could be this, probably when you were 2 or 3 years old. But then what happened is eventually nobody ever gave them the tools or the operating systems to get over here. So what happened is they just resigned to this. But I promise you that even if you feel resignation, the fact that you're here having this conversation, there's still a piece of you that knows that it's possible. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter that you feel resigned, because somewhere inside of you, there's a percentage of you that's still connected to this, or you wouldn't even be having this conversation with us today. Does that make sense? People just know that there's something more. The issue is not that, oh, well, I need to resign to what is. You're here as a creator. You were never designed to resign to what is. So, the resignation comes from the judgment of what is. The resignation, I want to show you the irony of it. The irony of it is this, that literally this future trajectory was already created. It exists on a parallel timeline in consciousness. It actually is happening right now. You, as you are meant to be, is actually happening right now. That's why you're constantly being called over there, or you wouldn't feel that dissonance. So the irony is that it exists and it is. And the resignation is not because you can't get there. The resignation is because you don't know how to get there. You get it? So it's because you don't know how. So how you get there is from the code. So I'm going to say this real quick. When enough people in humanity have enough asking, a tipping point is reached, and the codes and operating system to be able to make the leap from here to here, that's the superpower that we're talking about right now, to make the leap from here to here becomes available to most of humanity. It becomes solidified. It becomes constituted as a thing. And once it becomes constituted as a thing in physics, it's available to all of us. And what we're doing today is we're opening the portal to that particular superpower. The superpower to be able to collapse this timeline into this timeline. Super cool, right? So one of the things about being able to do that, as I said before, is that we're activating the portal or the doorway. We're going to do the embodiment work in upstate New York, the embodying of the collapse. We're opening the doorway to the possibility today of that collapse. And then we're going to actually do the work over 2 days in upstate New York at the Omega Institute. But I wanted to bring you all along with us, at least opening the doorway if you're not coming to Rhinebeck. And if you are coming to Rhinebeck, your whole life is going to change, because the 3 activations that we're doing around these portals and then the embodiment work we're going to do there is for bridge builders, and it will completely change the trajectory of your life. But let's open this portal right now, okay? So let's close our eyes. What I need first is a yes from you. Just type in yes if you're completely available to collapse your potential self with your current self by upgrading and embodying that future trajectory that was already yours. Are you a yes? Are you saying bring it on to that particular paradigm? And if you are saying bring it on, say bring it on or yes. And type it in or say it out loud, however you want to do it, because your cells are going to respond to the yes. The place you don't want to be is, well, we'll see after we open the doorway, or, maybe. The thing is, you guys, this is your life. You want to be a yes to all of it. It's like, bring it, people, right? So, all right. So if you're a yes to collapsing the self that is the trajectory you went on before you even came here with your current self, so you can be in even more flow and get out of the way of all the identities and all of the personality traits that you've developed to compromise yourself. Are you a yes to actually embodying yourself at that level? And are you a yes to opening the doorways? Are you a yes to opening the portal to the possibility of an operating system that would have you collapse your ultimately fulfilling life with your current now? Cool, you guys. All right, then it's game on. It's game on, sisters and brothers. Let's do this thing. So let's all breathe. What we just did is we woke up your receptor sites on the outside of your 30, 50, 75 trillion cells. We just woke up all those receptor sites. What we also did is we said that we're interested, and we activated, we said yes to the codes, the frequencies, the geometries, which, by the way, are always fluid and moving. They're not static codes. They're constantly evolving to be able to serve us on better levels, in more efficient ways. The more we ask, the more those operating system, those codes, and those mechanisms upgrade. So they are constantly moving. There is no static sacred geometry. It's constantly, by the way, even that is a paradigm shift for most. There is no static unidimensional sacred geometry. There is only fluid moving sacred geometry. So now breathe. By the way, that's something that we saw in La Puerta in Lake Titicaca in Peru. So breathe. The first breath is going to be a breath of waking up your receptor sites and waking up the telomeres on the end of your chromosomes, so that you can receive the photon packages of light that will come from the awareness that something exists whereby you can collapse the future trajectory that you were designed to go on, that timeline that already exists in physics that runs parallel to your existing current life. So breathe in the potential that the two can become one, that we can 0 point those two things. The second breath is that can be done with ease and flow in a time-space continuum, such that it takes as much time as it takes in order to have it be fluid and gracious, and that it serves your life rather than throwing you off balance. That we expand your capacity to integrate, we expand your capacity to see beyond what you've already seen, we expand your capacity to go beyond the personality traits that you perceive have kept you safe, which really have kept you safe from your ultimate journey. So they haven't actually kept you safe. They've kept you from perhaps being judged. They've kept you perhaps from being assessed. But they have protected you also from having a lot of fun, expanding forward, creating upon creation, having a completely fulfilling life. The great news is you're going to be judged anyways if you collapse these two timelines. You're going to be judged for being a unicorn, being outside of the box. You're going to be judged for all of the things you're already being judged for. But at least when we collapse the two, one of you will be happy and fulfilled and having a good time. The other piece of this is that you're not going to be alone. So just breathe it in. This third breath, is the breath of being okay with the not knowing of what this looks like. The breath of being okay that you're not going to be alone. The breath of being okay that you can always come back to the playground and talk about your experience and not be alone. The breath knowing that there are always resources to access to be able to go on this journey into the future, holding hands with all the others that will be doing the same, and that we can find each other, that will attract exactly what you need. And that you're willing to say yes to things that in your heart are a yes, no matter how much your personality resists. The personality that you created in order to protect yourself from going on the expansive journey, how ironic, that we're talking about today. So breathe in and let's activate this portal. Let's activate the doorway. What does it look like on the other side of the doorway? That's what we need to do. Know that I'm going to be speaking really, really fast sometimes and really, really slow. And I promise you that it doesn't matter what speed I'm going, the codes are available in the conversation. When I speak slowly, it's because we're building a bridge in your mind. When I speak quickly, it's because we don't want the mind involved. So breathe. Imagine that on the other side of this doorway, you have the capacity to, in this time-space continuum, start to embody ways of being that already exist, that got created on a parallel timeline. And on the parallel timeline, you made a different choice when someone told you that you're not enough. On the parallel timeline, you use your emotions to be able to discern that when someone says you're not enough and that does not feel correct in your body, how you know it doesn't feel correct is because it feels less than expansive. When a statement from someone, no matter how much older they are than you or how much taller they are than you, does not feel congruent with the expansiveness of the universe, you know instantaneously it isn't the truth about the trajectory you were meant to go on. It's not that it's not the truth about you. It's not the truth literally about the future projection of a lifetime that you were meant to go on. It's much bigger than not being true about you. It's not true about the person who goes on the ultimate trajectory of total fulfillment. That's why it doesn't feel good. Consciousness makes no mistakes. God, creation, whatever you want to call it, makes no mistakes about each of the characteristics that human beings have. And one of the characteristics is called feelings. Feelings are a way of reading whether or not something is congruent with the path that you were designed to go on. You're not good enough is definitely not congruent. In fact, any statement or any action that looks like perhaps you were held as less than, whether you were abused, raped, pillaged, stolen from, the fact that those activities feel so incongruent, so awful, so terrible, is because the idea that you make up in your mind is incongruent with the idea that the universe has. I.e., this is a scary world. I.e., I mustn't be worthy. I.e., I must be less than that someone would do that to me. I.e., there's something wrong with me that someone would do that with me. No, unfortunately, in this world, there has been a cultural paradigm. It doesn't actually exist so much. It's changing very quickly. But there has been a paradigm whereby if you're shiny or bright or beautiful or you are filled with possibility, those that have been resigned to their egoic paradigms will judge or will try to suppress, oppress, or take the power away from someone who is so supremely connected. So the only reason that happened to you is because you are supremely connected and you are meant to go on a journey. And today is the day, if you choose, that you get to open the portals once again. Perhaps you've done it before. You get to open the portals. You get to choose to say yes to the person that actually knew from the way she felt or he felt that what you perceived from what happened was actually not congruent with the truth of the path that you were meant to go on. In the land of no time-space reality, we get to go back to that time or those times now and make a different choice. I'm sorry, don't you know who I am? I'm sorry, may I tell you that you can get your power back yourself? I'm going to live a life that becomes an example of taking my power back. I'm going to live a life of just embodying the power that I am. And I'm going to fly forward having everything that I need come to me. By the way, thank you very much for doing that for me, because now I know how lost most of humanity is, and I'm going to include you in my flight forward. I'm going to include you in all the bridges that I build. I'm going to include you and make your future lives a better place because I choose to use you as a catalyst instead of a disempowering event. I choose to use you as a catalyst back to my path, to remembering who I am. Now, there's a question that you must ask if you're going to go on this journey, of course. If you're going to have the experience of collapsing the trajectory you were meant to go on into your actual current life trajectory, then what you must do is you must be willing to ask yourself, what is happening for me? What am I open to receiving right now? Am I willing to do what's presenting in front of me regardless of whether it makes sense? Am I willing to know, not trust? Trust is on the other trajectory. Am I willing to simply know that I am a divine child of an infinite universe? That is the quickest way to get into your to open this doorway to the new paradigm. Am I willing to understand myself as a divine child of an infinite universe? But am I willing to operate like everything that's in front of me, even if it doesn't make sense, is happening for me? Am I willing to engage conversations that are difficult, to build bridges, because the trajectory that I was designed to go on is not about the little me. The little me is the other trajectory that protected itself. You are literally an alchemist, a wizard, a witch, a creator, a finger of the hand of the entire universe wanting to create upon itself, being given excuses or catalysts to be able to build bridges to the love that's available in the entire universe. That is going to take diving into the land of not knowing And at first, because of the other lifetime you lived, it's actually going to take some courage. And thirdly, it's going to take the willingness to have some help and not do it alone anymore. Are you willing to stop doing it alone? Are you willing to engage the people, the places, the communities, the programs, the assistance, the codes that would allow you to upgrade and embody yourself on the new timeline, well, actually the original timeline that was designed for your greatest fulfillment of all the skills, the heart, the love that you ever had? You may say yes to this. The physical application in 3 dimensions can be challenging. But we want you to know that metaphysically you are certainly not alone. And in a body on a planet, even this unique playground is a place where you can come. But in order to get the exponential help, you have to be willing to engage when your heart says yes to talking to someone, to taking a program, to doing whatever it takes. We will always support you. You will never not be supported. Your heart is literally God's megaphone. That's where we need to go. Your heart speaks in language of contraction or expansion. Are you willing to listen to that language? The language of expansion and contraction, not the language of trust or don't trust, not the language of question or don't question, not the language of I'm afraid or I'm not afraid. Has nothing to do with fear. You're going to be afraid a lot of the time. The question is, will you say yes to that which is expansive? So those are the ingredients, my friends. We've opened the portal. This is your journey. You are not alone. You are going to need help. One of the ways that the collective ego has kept us from actually flying is to do it alone, to be engaged in the idea that you need to be independent, you need to figure it out yourself and somehow prove it. Don't listen to the collective ego. This is a collective effort. It truly does take the village of all of your metaphysical friends and all of your physical friends, and it takes your yes. So take a deep breath in and breathe your eyes open if your eyes have been closed. So my beautiful beings, that is the journey. That is the opening of the doorway to the collapsing of the two worlds. For some of you, you've already opened the doorway. This is just a deepening or a widening of the doorway so you can see more of what's on the other side, that which perhaps you haven't seen yet. The next step of this is to actually experience what it is to be a bridge builder firsthand and to embody the skill sets and the knowingness that you are that other trajectory. Again, I'm going to say that experience, and I say this not as a sales pitch, I literally say this because I know that if you know you're a bridge builder, the fluidity program that we're doing in upstate New York at the Omega Institute could not be more important in the embodiment of these superpowers. Opening the doorway is one thing, but actually going on the experience and actually using these superpowers and having the first-hand experience of it causes an embodiment so that it becomes your default way of being instead of being in an intellectual exercise and trying to do it on your own. So I'll post the link to that particular event for you. Hopefully you can come firsthand. There is nothing like doing our programs live with me and my team. And we only do them a few times a year. We do a couple of get out of your own ways and usually one other program. This is that one other program. So I love you guys so much. Did this all make sense? Does it speak to your heart? Can you feel what we're talking about? Can you feel the power of collapsing the two, and that the codes available to us now to be able to collapse them at a much more efficient rate are so important. It is my privilege and my honor to be able to do this with you. Please absolutely share the activations with friends, pass them on to others, forward them. This is for all of humanity. That's why I'm doing them. Yeah, it's game on, you guys. It's time. I was also going to say that all of these recordings are going to be on youtube.com// The Wide Awakening. So in fact, all of our pre-recorded, activations to portals are there if you want to go and look them up and pass them on to other people. I just feel like it's such a privilege to be able to connect with you and let you know that you're not by yourself, and that we're all in this together, and that we don't have to do it alone anymore. And I'm so looking forward to finally meeting so many of you for the first time in Rhinebeck. And for those of you who worked with me before, you know the power of the live events. So please come, say yes. We'll see you there. And you cannot do it alone, you guys. You cannot. Don't. I did that for years. It's silly. I was going to say something else. It's silly. It's silly to do that. It's not, when you work with someone else, it's not you plus the other person or you plus that teacher. It's you times them. It's you times all their skills. It's their skills times your skills, right? It's time to stop living that paradigm. So I love you guys so much. All over your faces.